In my journey of podcasting, I discovered which areas are most susceptible to get impacted by podcasting. And SaaS is one vertical where you do not need to, well, if you understand marketing, let me put it that way, there is a very important concept called how your product feels, visualizing the product. All right. And with SaaS, that is one of the biggest challenges that you cannot visualize the product, you cannot show it, you cannot feel it. You have to
Right.
explain it via words.
Right.
And that somehow is also a very big advantage that SaaS companies have, because
True.
here you can use podcasts. So with podcast, this is also a challenge that you cannot show it, you can only hear it. And
True.
that is why SaaS companies and podcasts can create a very good collaboration where every SaaS company can connect with their customers through podcasts. And the only, assumed drawback of podcasts that it is not as good for showcasing the product. Well, it's not
Well,
applicable
it's
for
not
SaaS.
applicable for Mhm.
So it's the most suitable platform for SaaS companies to connect with their potential customers, buyers, and the entire, well, how do I put it? Entire chain of decision makers to your buyers and their clients as well. So that applies in case if you are providing to a company who has customers, B2B2C.
Right. Mhm. So, Nishant, let me, put it in a way that, in your term, any SaaS company who are working there must have a podcast channel, must have, a source where they are creating content and explaining that what they are doing, right?
I agree that every SaaS company needs a channel for content. A lot of
Mhm.
SaaS companies are putting out written content, blogs, email marketing,
Mhm.
email newsletters. Some are going forward, taking the extra step and doing the YouTube videos. And
Mhm.
even at present, a lot of SaaS companies are doing podcasts and they are seeing
True.
some visible results. Some
Right.
extreme results. I have had conversations with a lot of SaaS marketeers, head
Mhm.
of marketing, director of marketing, that kind of people. And their response is always positive. For some, it was much more than expected. The ROI they received from podcasts, the impact on branding as well. Their brand awareness went up because of guest
Mhm.
episodes they did, because of other guests they brought in on their podcast, and so on.
Mhm.
So the ROI, all in all, was much more, sometimes 10x of what they projected it to be.
Right, right. So, Nishant, I wanted to know you more, right? So, what you do, like how you
Sure.
help people to create podcasts, right? And why? Why podcasts? Why not video form? Why not blogging? Why not other source of marketing?
That's an interesting question, I'd say. And it goes with the assumption that source of marketing is blogs or video. That's
Right.
something I'd like to counter on first,
Mm-hmm.
because marketing is all about connecting with the customer, helping
Right.
them make the decision. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
if I put it plainly, the end goal of any marketing activity is
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that when your ideal customer wants to buy your service or something similar, your company's name
Mm-hmm.
pop up at the top
Right.
and they know that this is what I want to buy. So this is
Right.
the combined goal of marketing and its sister vertical branding. These are
Right.
so intertwined that it's very difficult at times to differentiate between these two.
Mm-hmm.
Next, why podcasting? So it started a couple of years back when I was interacting with a couple of very interesting people over LinkedIn, and
Mm-hmm.
I got invited as a guest on their podcast.
Okay. Nice. Yeah.
I Yeah, it was out of the blue. I loved the conversations, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, this is something I want to explore.
Mm-hmm.
I tried building my own podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and I loved it. I was like, yeah, this is something I want to do. This is
Mm-hmm.
something I can see myself doing for next 10 years of my life. And I got, all in into podcasting. I started building my own podcast. Then I got some of the people seeking help with their podcasts. They're like,
Right.
hey Nishant, I'm building my podcast and I know you can do this stuff well, so help me. That is how I got into podcast consulting and helping people create their podcasts. So I started with the basic work, episode
Mm-hmm.
editing, post production, content restructuring or content reusing. And after that, I moved into strategy, podcast
Mm-hmm.
design, guest solicitation, the end-to-end thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's one. And apart from that, I kept on building my own podcasts. And one of my podcasts also got acquired by a startup. So
Nice.
that was another validation that I'm on a right path. This is something the world needs.
Right, true.
And
Like there are so many people
keeping
who
at
are,
it.
yeah, definitely. Like there are so many people who are trying to put out their content in an audio form, right? In nowadays,
Yeah.
people are more into audiobooks and podcasts, right? So, Nishad, I just wanted to know what is the common myth about your profession, like being a podcast consultant, right? Who all everyone think like this is something which no one do or something like that, right? Is there any kind of common myth about your profession?
Oh, yeah, actually, there are a lot. And I would
Okay.
not say it's very, some of these are specific to podcasting vertical, but a lot of
Mm-hmm.
these actually are common to all the content creators.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of content creators, be it video content creators, be it even textual content creators, copywriters, they all face the similar bias against them from people who do not know how to do it.
Right.
So some is like, how long does it take to create this much content? 1 hour, because it's 30-minute audio, 30-minute podcast. So 1 hour should be enough. I can put
Right.
aside 1 hour a week, and yeah, I'll have a very good podcast. Why are you charging me this much? And all I say is, hey, I'll give you 5 hours. Do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you can do it in 5 hours a week, I won't charge you.
True. True. True.
And
I have
that's
faced this issue.
that. Actually, this specific situation happened. So I'm paraphrasing what I said there. And
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks later, yeah, it was a good deal. That person understood that podcasting takes time,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a good contract, 6 month long contract
Mm-hmm. That's nice.
going on.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you do lots of stuff, like you are giving consultancy for podcasting, you are giving training to CEOs, entrepreneurs, right? So what's your productive hack? Like what you do to maintain your calendar or being productive.
Ooh, that's a very interesting question. Uh, my biggest point is I do not, keep my calendar full.
Okay.
I try to keep a lot of gap between
Mm-hmm.
meetings, and let's just say keep a balance of how much free time I have to recharge
Hmm.
myself and to think on things. Because if there's
Right.
a 1 hour of work I'm putting in, more often than not, there's 2 to 3 hours of thought that goes into it. So I need to have that free time and freedom in mind that I do not have to rush it, so I can think on it. So
Right. And
limiting the clients I work with at a time is an important aspect. I have been a victim of taking on more clients than I would like. So I have to consciously bring myself to it. No, um, earliest we can do is 3 months later, and that kind of thing. Feels bad, but have to do it.
true. And I was reading somewhere that you have to keep that particular time to filter out your thoughts, right? You cannot rush into
Yeah,
everything, right? You have to filter out all those
totally.
things which is going on in your life, and then you have to decide what is your priority and what you can keep it for for after some time. You need time to get bored, then you can do something which is interesting for you.
That's very important. It's this particular month. I'm
Mhm.
spending this month traveling and exploring different places, exploring myself, spending a lot of time meditating and all. Yes, it's very important to get bored, and it's very difficult as well. With all the
Mhm.
technology we have around us, very, it takes a lot of willpower to get bored.
Mhm.
Because the moment you get bored, your hand will automatically go for your mobile phone, and you can go on Instagram and check your reels. You can go on Twitter and check some hot topics. You can go on LinkedIn and comment on someone's post, be it their own, well, it could be a controversial topic, a funny concept, or a copy pasted topic, which is quite
Mhm.
prevalent.
Right.
And half the comments are, oh, copied from this person, copied from that person. That's the most fun thing. But still, you have to just leave with your mobile phone at your room and, yeah, go for a walk in a secluded
True.
place, because otherwise you'll find some stimulation in public as well.
True. What
It's
is
a
the most important
challenge.
lesson? Yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. So, what is the most important lesson you have learned over your career, like so far?
Ooh, man, there are a lot. I
Okay.
cannot single out one.
So, like, if you can mention one or two, which is more recent.
Okay. So the most challenging challenge was to stick to one thing. I've been a guy who used to do, during my MBA, I used to do three internships alongside my MBA. I was like doing my college, then 3 hours of internship, then 1 hour of gym, then work on my second internship, and then bed. It was all cut to cut. And Saturday, Sunday
Oh.
was my third internship time. So I had my entire day plan, entire week, entire month planned like that. And during that 1 year, I was after 8 9 months, 10 months, I was burnt out. So I dropped from three to two internships, from two to one after that 1 year. After 1 year, I actually stopped doing internships. I was like, no, only college.
Mhm.
So that is one thing, that explore everything, but stick to one thing and decide that fast. Take some time, but do not take all the time.
True. Nowadays I'm seeing that monotasking becoming taboo for lots of people, right? There's so many things going on, and people are rushing towards everything, and they are trying to do so many things, right? So, in young age, like in young kid, right? This monotasking is kind of taboo now, right now. I don't know why.
Actually, it's not a taboo. It's a okay. It feels like it's a taboo because everyone is doing multitasking, if I
Right.
understand you right. So what
Right.
is actually happening is, when you do three things at a time, your brain
Hmm.
feels that you're being productive. It releases
Right.
some dopamine,
Hmm.
and dopamine is very addictive. That also,
True.
contributes to our previous conversation on why it's important to get bored.
Right.
The more number of things you're doing, less time you have to think, and hence less time to get bored.
Right.
So more number of things you're doing, you are not getting bored at all. You are, in that overdrive state, in overstimulated state. Your brain is
Hmm.
releasing a lot more dopamine, and you are just happy about it. But it also burns you out very fast, and it also reduces the quality of your work because you cannot think. You are just doing. You do not have time to
Hmm.
think. And I've been a
Sure.
victim of it, so I won't say it's just the new generation. It's me. It's practically me.
Right, right. So, Nishant, in your opinion, what is the most important, strength someone would need to work or be successful in SaaS forecasting or putting our content in SaaS?
If we have to focus on SaaS podcasting, that means we are
Hmm.
talking about marketing skills. And I
Hmm.
would say knowing your customer journey, what your
Yeah.
customer is experiencing at every stage of their journey
Hmm.
with your product.
Hmm.
Now, that journey includes being problem aware. If your product is
Hmm.
something for which problem awareness is not as widespread, being
Hmm.
solution aware, then the first interaction they have with your company, with your brand, be it your website, be it your newsletter, be it the content of one of your employees on LinkedIn or YouTube, even that is a
Hmm.
part of your brand, directly, directly or indirectly.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
you need to have some form of control over the indirect touch points, and you need to have absolute control over your direct touch points. And that control should emerge from knowing what your customer's journey is, what their thought process is, what their pain points is.
Sure, sure.
Otherwise,
Have
otherwise you are just one in thousands.
Right. Have you ever failed in your way of doing things or putting out content and podcast?
Oh yeah, a lot of times.
Okay, and then what you did?
Took some time off, felt bad about myself, felt bad about my decisions,
Hmm.
felt overwhelmed, took some time off, and then brought out the stubborn me and got back to it.
Okay. What was the
I'm not
turning
going
point
back.
in? Yeah, that's true. Quitting is not option.
Yeah.
What was the turning point in your life?
I can think of a few.
Yeah, definitely. You have time.
Well, COVID was a very big turning point. If not for
Mhm.
COVID, I don't think I would have, gotten into podcasting.
Would you like
I
to
would have
mention,
taken
like,
a how, okay? So, well, if not for COVID, I would have been in a regular job, 40 hours a week, which
Mhm.
essentially turns into 60 to 80 hours a week, and then
Right?
just go home and sleep, possibly party on Saturday if you have friends around.
Mhm.
What happened in COVID is I got a lot of time free.
Mhm.
COVID was a time where I stopped doing all my internships just before COVID, so I had that time at hand, and all the
Mhm.
traveling was seized, so I had that time at hand. And because of
Mhm.
COVID, I was back at home, so I did not need to do any of that maintenance work.
Mhm.
Washing your clothes, washing utensils, cooking, nothing. I'm a free bird now.
Mhm.
So I went on to LinkedIn. I connected with people because I was a guest on podcast once.
Mhm.
I connected with that person, learned about what they did, why they did it. Well, for them, it was just something to, chill out, a Saturday night
Mhm.
fun thing.
Right.
But it gave me an idea on to explore what should I do, what it actually is. I came to know that there are a lot of podcasters in US and in India.
Mhm.
Learning about all of this, I met some people. Some of them are doing podcasting in India since 2004. And I was like,
Long
wow,
time. Yeah.
yeah, 2004 and in India, that's something. I don't think
Mhm.
people still know a lot about podcasts. And if you go 3 years
Yeah.
back, no one would.
Right.
So that's something that made me think that yes, there's a scope in podcasting, to grow and to bring about a change. So that
That's
was
nice.
practically what got me on this path and made me sustain on it.
That's nice. Nissan, so when you started, right, and now you have made lots of content, right? There's so many people you have talked, right? So what do
Yeah.
you wish you had known when you started? What was the things which you, if you know it that time, you might have done it in a better way?
Okay. So, huh, I'd put it this way, because of my specific education background, I put a lot of emphasis on research.
Right.
And now I feel that when I started, I was a student. So I had that privilege to go out and about and make mistakes. As a
Mm-hmm.
student, this is, unethical hack of life. Go out, make mistakes. Don't think a lot. As long as
True.
you have the tag of being a student, you can make a lot more
Mm-hmm.
mistakes than anyone else and get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
This is something I know now, and this is something I'm gonna share with my cousins.
Okay.
Leverage
Mm-hmm.
this, make your mistakes. Because
Mm-hmm.
if I did that, I would have sped up my journey. I've cut the time by half at least, maybe more.
Mm-hmm.
What I did was I spent a lot of time on research. I scrapped a lot of ideas because they didn't seem as probable to succeed. And now, at this time, looking back, connecting all the dots, I see some of those ideas could have really took off. And the good thing about ideas and just starting up is I did not need to put in a lot of my hours. I could have started, three different podcasts on three wonderful topics I was totally interested in. I did it with
True.
one. And thing is, I did it with such research, such in-depth research that my very first podcast got acquired. Almost 1.5 year, 1 year, 1.5 year after it started, it got acquired. So yeah, the
Right.
research was on point, but still, if I had done four, I think two would have gotten acquired. But that's still wishful thinking, I guess.
We would like to know the story behind that acquisition and how that deal works out. Which was
Okay.
the
Well,
company who offered you, and if you can say the amount, we will be more than happy.
I cannot take the names, but I can share
Yeah.
this that during the podcast recording, I invited guests from all over the world. What
Hmm.
happened is some people took cognizance of it. They were like, "Yes, this is something we can use." They're building a
Hmm.
mental health startup. They are. This is the very particular audience that they are targeting.
Okay.
It's a
Yeah.
niche podcast. It's a niche
Hmm.
where people pay.
Hmm.
So they took it. They're like, "Yeah, I want this." Let's talk.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good conversation. It was good start, it was good knowing that what I'm building on is needed in the world, and it's also something people are willing to pay for.
Mm-hmm.
That was
You,
pretty much the most motivation I needed to make sure I'm keeping up to it.
right. It was a validation from market, right? It was a
Oh yeah,
bang on validation.
exactly. When someone approaches you that I want your product, you're not going them and they are saying yes. It's they are coming to
Yeah.
you. No, I want it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right,
that's
right.
the same thing that happened with my strategy services. People said that, I want this. Can you do it for me, please? And that's how I started doing the strategy and entire podcast planning and stuff.
Right. I have seen there are lots of people who just think that this is the correct idea, bahut badhiya idea. Let's release it, let's go in a market. But no one is buying it, right? When people are ready to pay you for your service, your product, that means that idea is great. That means that service is great, right? Yeah.
True. Though I'd say one thing, that if you're trying to build up, startup that generates revenue, the path I took is not the ideal one, because I just took off. I did the same thing. I found something that I feel is needed in the world, and I
Mm-hmm.
started building on it. I did not think that to whether it will generate me some revenue. I was I started as, and I always thought of it as a money sink or time sink, resource sink, not a revenue generation source. It became a source that was lucky for me, but it was not a very good way of starting a startup or a business. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, if you want to bring change to some very specific topic, then yes, it's a very good way of doing it. Think of it
Nishant,
how you
if
can connect with the most suitable audience, the most specific target audience, and do it. Just that.
true, true. Nishant, if you can start a business tomorrow, like tomorrow
Hmm.
by Tuesday, right? What would be
Uh-huh.
that business be?
Oh, it would be podcasting services. I would
Okay.
start with that.
Mm-hmm. So you are going to give services, in podcast and how it works. Like,
Yes, there could be two or three particular things I can do. I can do coaching for podcasting. If you want to start a podcast as a student, these are the
mm-hmm,
things you should start with. These are the
mm-hmm,
steps you should do. If you want to
mm-hmm,
build a podcast for your company, for your established company, then this is how you should approach it. This is
mm-hmm,
how your setup would be different from a student who is building
mm-hmm,
a podcast. This is how you should distribute it, all of that. So coaching or training for podcasting enthusiasts, that is one thing I can do. Another is same, a podcasting agency. That would be much more suitable, because actually that is something I'm doing with Optiblack Media.
mm-hmm.
That's a venture along with Vishal,
Right.
where we are, yes, we are targeting SaaS companies, helping them build their podcasts from
Mm-hmm.
zero to ground up and to their customers.
Right. That's a great idea. Like people are in need of this kind of content strategy, right? They are in need of doing something and putting out content for the clients, right? So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, they do. And the biggest challenge we face is not just being, not just making our target customers solution aware, but at times also making them problem aware that this is the problem you are facing. They know that they are facing a challenge, but why are they facing a challenge? That why is
True.
something we have to show them, that you do not have a direct connection with your potential client or even your existing clients. You wait for
Right.
them to reach out to you, and not everyone reaches out. That's a fact. How many times would you reach out to, in case if you find a puffed packet of juice, would you throw it, or would you call them and wait for 10 minutes and then get to talk to someone? You'd be like, no, my 15 minutes are worth more. But the company lost a customer that probably would have generated thousands every month, because it's a company, it's not one product.
True, true. There are lots of people who don't even know that this is the problem. They are facing problem and they need solution for this problem, right? This is very interesting. Like you mentioned, very correct point that making sure that people must aware about their problem, then only they can go for a solution. True, true, true. So if I ask you, what do you wish everyone should understand about the podcasting? What that would be?
That one, it is doable at all stages. You can do it at zero investment with spending just 30 to 60 or at max 90 minutes a week. You can build a podcast episode, but it won't be the best quality.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you are so focused on quality, it can take up to 20-30 hours a week as well, based on what kind
Mm-hmm.
of quality you are expecting. It can
Mm-hmm.
take experts in all the fields, including audio mastering, social media, content writing, copywriting, a number of things actually. So at a time I am working on, based on the project, I can be working with just two people, or it could be five different experts from different verticals.
Mm-hmm.
So one, that the entry barrier to podcasting is very very low. You can start. Just start,
Right.
please. If you don't want my help, if you don't want to pay me, don't. Just go out and start something, because I know that podcasting will help you. I don't care if you don't want to pay me, don't. If you just want some help, I won't even charge you. Just send me a DM, I'll guide you.
Mm-hmm.
But do this is something that you will thank yourself for. And
Sure.
for companies, yeah, you need it. You need to connect with your customers, and paid ads are going down. That is something we have seen, especially since Apple Facebook ban.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sure.
that's another thing why marketeers need to get to podcasting even more rigorously.
Right. So Nishant, I follow Joe Rogan very, aggressively, right? He is one of the kind of
Uh-huh.
best podcaster in the entire world, right? And I have seen his content, right? But I'm very honest, I liked his video podcasting more than audio podcasting, right? I maybe
Mhm.
I'm more into visuals and videos. But what's your opinion? What you think about podcasting and audio podcasting? What is better?
This is a very interesting question and kind of a controversial one.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, the very first point is I agree with you that video podcasting is always more engaging than audio podcasts. Video podcast
Mm-hmm.
will always be more engaging than audio podcast, because they're engaging a lot more of your senses, especially your
Sure.
visual sense, which is
Mm-hmm.
a lot many times, not just by percentage, a couple of times more powerful than your auditory senses. So
Sure.
you are much more engaged in what you're looking at versus what you're hearing. So, if we want to test it, try to read something and listen to something else, and
Right.
you'll focus on what you're reading and not what you're listening.
True.
So, yes, video podcasts are always more engaging and more fun. And
Mm-hmm.
with a person like Joe Rogan, who has a very interesting setup, and he always ensures he has some visually appealing elements. Now, if you're seeing Elon Musk, smoke a joint, you want to see that. You don't want to hear that.
Right, right. And he did it.
Oh, yeah. It dropped the shares of Tesla by 9%. Yeah, it did.
Right.
If you wanna,
Mm-hmm.
if you wanna listen to Jordan Peterson, he was one of the guests. You wanna
Mm-hmm.
see his expressions. He has
Right.
um, quite strong expressions when he's saying stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The way he thinks, his expressions when he's thinking on stuff. It's it's quite strong. It's quite visible. You wanna see that. You
Right.
don't just wanna listen to it. So that's one point. But why audio podcasts are, well, why I'm focused on audio podcasts and why I think audio podcast is what we need.
Mm-hmm.
There are 2 points to it. One, video podcast is basically YouTube video with a different name.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
YouTubers are doing it since YouTube came out practically. All
Right.
right, now they needed a different name, or maybe they took the same concept that it's a series of conversations which are barely linked with each other, or which might be directly linked to each other. Part one,
Mm-hmm.
part two, part three, and you have to listen to them in series.
Sure.
Or it could
Or
be
it
like
could be like.
episodic thing, that first episode is this, second episode is this. They all are based on same concept, but every conversation is different and can be listened to individually and in any sequence.
Right.
So that's the entire concept of podcast, and that is why it's like, okay, we are adding video to it. It's a video podcast.
Mm-hmm.
The Podcasts, how it started was RSS feeds and audios. That's how it
Mm-hmm.
started. And why it's continuing is an audio podcast is not a competitor to video podcasts.
Sure.
A
True.
lot of podcasters, new podcasters, I'd say, they always think that should I create an audio podcast or should I create a video podcast? Which one will
Mm-hmm.
bring me the most traction? If you ask me, if you can create a video podcast, make sure to do an audio podcast as well. Just from the same video, extract the audio and put it as an audio podcast. Why? Because video podcasts and audio podcasts are not a direct competitor. You won't think that, should I listen to the audio? You won't say that, should I listen to a podcast on a podcasting app on my mobile, while I'm going out for a jog, or just
Mm-hmm.
sitting in the park and enjoying the environment? Or should I sit in front of my laptop and put on my headphones and listen to this video which will tire my eyes, and just, or watch instead of a movie, should I watch this video
Mm-hmm.
podcast, or instead of listening to songs, should I watch this audio podcast? That's a very direct correlation you can have. So
True.
video podcasts and audio podcasts are not a competitor. They are competing different aspects of your life.
True. I would like to mention a very interesting story. Recently I was watching a video Tanmay Vetka, right? He was in conversation with Ankur Variko, right? And it was 8 minutes video, right? And cut to that, he also mentioned his podcast channel. And I, went to his podcast channel, and then I listened to the entire 45 minutes ka podcast, right? So this is true. Like video podcasts and audio podcasts are not competitor, right? They are helping each other to grow both the channel, and this is what it makes sense. True, true. Nishant, do you have work-life balance?
I try to keep some. It's a myth, man. It's a myth, really.
Yeah.
Pratik, if you are looking for work-life balance, you are practically saying you don't want growth in life. I think work-life balance is induced by people so that they can control the upcoming generation from doing something very big. Because either you seek something strongly or you don't. It's as simple as
Right.
that. Either you are passionate about something or you are not. And when someone is very passionate about something, they don't see the clock. They don't work by the clock.
Right.
And a very good way to deter that person is, have some work life balance. What are you doing with your life? You're just wasting it away on work. Have some work life balance. It's just a synonym to, yeah, what are your dreams? Let's just party and have some booze or something. It's a
True.
myth. Don't fall for it. As long as you are mentally and physically fit, that's the only balance you need. You don't need to go out every Sunday, Saturday, or you don't need to play video games. You don't need to spend time with your friends and family every other day. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it's important to have some human contact in your life. It's important to keep in touch with people who are important to you,
Mm-hmm.
but don't let that be an obstacle in your dream
True.
or in achieving your dream.
Mm-hmm. True. True. So, do you do meditation? What's meditation you do? Ishakriya?
I'm learning to do meditation.
Okay.
Not exactly Shakriya, but why did you ask that?
I just went through your content, and I saw that you went to Coimbatore, right? Somewhere I also follow, right? I also do Ishakriya on a daily
Okay.
basis. So I thought, like, so
Uh,
the my question is like, what change came in your life after doing the meditation, right? Is it true? Like I can feel changes in my day-to-day life, right? I can feel my mind stage, right, before meditation and after meditation. What's about you?
okay. So, first to your previous question, what meditation do I do? Before coming here, I used to do some guided meditations. I've purchased a lot of guided meditations from different authors.
Mm-hmm.
I have been doing guided meditations, since I was like 16 or 17, since I was in 10th. That's when I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, also, I was doing some meditation, but not guided meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And since I came here, I have been in Coimbatore since around 14th at the Isha Center since 14th. So
Mm-hmm.
that's almost 2 weeks. And I have been doing just, silent meditation. There's a very meditation inducing spot over here.
Okay.
It's called Dhyana Linga, where
I
you
know.
can go into the state of dhyan. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just, it introduced me to that experience of meditation that I never had before this.
Okay.
So as of now, I'm just doing that Dhyana Linga meditation,
Mm-hmm.
and it's taking me to just new level of meditation experiences. Um, to your next question, what changes I've seen when I meditate, and very particularly since past 2 weeks, because that has been a very strong experience.
Mm-hmm.
So one, it helps me sleep.
Okay.
Okay, otherwise my brain is always going on in 10 different directions, thinking on, oh, this is what I should do in this project, this is what I should do there, here, changes, upgrades, analyzing data, info, conversations, everything. So that was the biggest start on why I needed guided meditations.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that I got with this meditative experience is I was able to select on which things to keep and which things to let go in my to-do list. Because once I've committed something to my to-do list, it feels very wrong to, leave it incomplete or to strike it out. And when I have 10 things in the list and I only have time for four things, there have been days where I didn't do even one, thinking about which one should I do. So it's that analysis paralysis situation. And that is one thing, this meditation and following a schedule has allowed me to discover and make a decision on, and not feel bad about it. That's also an important thing.
True. True. Now, guilt is really big scene that is there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, Nishant, I'm with my last question, right? What is the
Sure,
three
shoot.
books? What is the three books you would like to recommend to all of the viewers?
Wow. Three books. Well, my latest read is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, it's not just because of what it teaches, it is
Mm-hmm.
also because you should be able to identify when someone is using those techniques.
Right.
It's, using the reverse psychology on them so that you
Mm-hmm.
do not get tricked into something. There are both
Mm-hmm.
kind of people who use this for mutual benefit and those who use it for their benefit and your loss.
Mm-hmm.
So you
True.
need to be beware of and identify the second category of people.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one book. And apart from that, the biggest aspect of books is, well, I'd say keep a journal. Keep a journal. That's more important than any planning book or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Plan your day, have three specific things that you want to complete in the next day. Mark them, whether you did it or not. If you want, mark how important they are. Level it 1 2 3, or not important, somewhat important, important, very important, something like that. Mark it whether you did it or not. That'll help you keep track of your work and where are you with your planned progress. And please, for love of god, do not commit more than 6 to 8 hours of your day, because if you think it'll take you 6 hours, it'll take you 12. And
True.
after that, you should have some time to breathe.
Right. You have time to get bored.
Yeah, you need to keep that, please.
True. True.